Okay, perfect. So my first question for you is, would you provide a brief summary of your current role and primary responsibilities?
Yeah. So my name is Circe Wallace. I'm Executive Vice President of Action Sports at Olympics at Wasserman. I have been here for a very long time. My primary responsibilities are on the talent management side. So I work with a lot of the top talent in the Olympics, specifically surfing, skating, and snowboarding. And I also produce a lot of content. So whether that's long form film or television or short format, almost all of the content that I produce is essentially ideated or spawned from a talent's creative ideas. And I help kind of package those ideas and help bring them to life.
That's so cool.
So yeah, it's fun. And I guess a little more context around on the talent management side, my primary responsibilities are helping find sponsors, sponsorship acquisition, negotiating deals, making sure that, contracts are fair and equitable, and that athletes or creatives are delivering on those contracts.
So do you do anything like with the athletes, like personally, like finding the athletes, or you just are on the
Yeah.
contract side of this?
Yes, I typically, and sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Uh,
you're fine.
I, I got the question though. So typically, I only really source my own talent. So recruiting is very much a part of my everyday experience in helping find and develop talent. So oftentimes now that I am later in life, in my career, I have a reputation, whether that's good or bad, but oftentimes more than not, talent will come to me now.
Mhm.
Um, I'm very precious about who I bring on and making sure that I can actually create real meaningful opportunity.
Cool. That's so cool. Okay, our second question is, what key lessons have you learned from working in sports?
Key lessons. What key lessons I have learned from working in sports? Well, I was an athlete myself,
Mhm.
so that certainly I think helps in navigating some of the challenges. Being a woman in the sports industry is hard.
Mhm.
I would say I am one of three women agents at Wasserman of over 100. So I think that continuing to fight for more kind of gender equity and representation in the sports space is really important. And I have learned that tenacity is really important, that being navigating challenging environments um, are just part of life, and being able to do that uh, over time. And I've learned that the more good work you do, the more opportunities develop, and that tenacity is a really important part of that. It's easy to get discouraged or frustrated, especially when you're young, because there are a lot of challenges in any work that you may be doing. But I think that really continuing to forge ahead in an area of business that you're passionate about is really important, even when there are some pretty big hurdles that you will inevitably encounter on the way. So tenacity is one of them. What else have I learned? I've learned that patience is a virtue. Oftentimes, there's a level of ambition or excitement around a project or an opportunity, and just really trusting and that things take time.
Mhm.
And as long as you're doing good work and you're working towards goals, I think, much like anything in sports and in life and in business, really personal accountability is super important, like understanding that things take time and that it takes hard work and that things don't just happen. I've learned that, the idea of 10,000 hours until you master something is really true.
Mhm.
And that is a big commitment. And I think especially for young people who are interested in being in the sports industry, it's important to understand that you do need to earn your stripes. You need to have a level of ongoing experience to ensure your position in the space.
Thank you.
Uh, what else? I've learned, again, that challenges are inevitable, and how you navigate those is what ultimately determines your success.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think integrity, I've learned, honesty and integrity and accountability are kind of three really critical pillars to success.
Thank you. That's what we're learning in our business class. That's what I'm learning personally in my business class as we work with companies, like developing marketing plans. It's like you need to have those top three key things to be the trusted advisor, the trusted person that you're working with. So that's really, it was really insightful to gain, especially from a sports side, because we're working with like just like companies, but like from a sports side, it's even as a player itself, it's like your teammates have to trust you in a way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, there's times where we make mistakes. And I think also, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes as long as you're honest and you are personally accountable when you do make those mistakes, so that those are growth opportunities.
Mhm.
Like, I had something happen the other day where I essentially had forgotten to invoice for something in 2022 and for that budget on behalf of an athlete. And it was totally my fault. Like, I just didn't get the invoice in, like my alert didn't pop, or, whatever it was. And I was like, oh my goodness, if I lost out on this invoice, this payment to an athlete because of my own lack of accountability, you know, in getting the job done, I was going to be totally devastated. And so the way that I handled it is I called the brand manager and I just apologized. And I said, hey, listen, like, this is totally my fault.
Mhm.
I take full responsibility for it. I would really hate for this athlete to lose out on money's due because of my mistake. And I'm hoping that you'd be willing to work with me. And because I did that, the response from the brand manager was very positive.
Mhm.
And we were able to work it out, and it was resolved, amicably and reasonably. And, that was just like a perfect kind of example of how, when you can approach things from, like, a place of, I take full responsibility for my mistake, and how can I remedy it? And will you work with me to remedy it? And I assure you that this will never happen again. Oftentimes is met with a much better response than, this money is due and you need to pay it. And, even though it was my mistake, it's still due. That's not going to get anybody anywhere, because again, it's like a lack of responsibility for your own mistakes. And I think there's just so much to, like, really sitting with, an accident or a mistake or a pitfall, because we all have them,
Mhm.
and being able to look at those instances as a growth opportunity, I think is a really important thing to learn.
Mhm. That's that's perfect. That's perfect. Another question I had is what are 1 to 2 highlights from your sports career?
Oh man, I have a few. I have several Olympians.
Mhm.
Um, I remember back in Vancouver, which must have been 2010. I have a snowboarder client who's still my client. She's been my client for almost 20 years, maybe longer. Um, Tora Bright, she is an Olympic snowboarder, and she won gold in Vancouver. Um, and having worked with her since she was 15, and being there and in the environment and being able to participate in that experience in a meaningful way. It was the first time that I'd ever had a client that won a medal. And it was just, I just love her as a person. And it just felt like I had a stake in that achievement. And that felt really, really wonderful. And, she went on to silver in Sochi, where I had another client win gold, Yuri Podlachikov. He's a Swiss Russian snowboarder, and he won gold in half pipe in Sochi. That was another peak moment, I would say. And then just this last Olympics in Tokyo, when skateboarding had its debut, I have a client, Jagger Eaton, who I've represented since he was 8 years old. He's 22 now. And he won a historic medal in skateboarding's debut in street skateboarding. And because I had worked so closely with him, and it was a really challenging road to Tokyo, between COVID, and he had been plagued with injury, and it was just really bumpy and a lot of tumultuousness in the road to the Olympics. And so to be able to also know that my participation in his life resulted in a medal at that event, especially in sports like snowboarding and skateboarding that are really where I come from. Like, I grew up doing both of those things. I have a real kind of inner passion for those sports. And so to be able to like participate in the growth and evolution and then celebrate individuals that I helped bring up feels really wonderful. I would say the other one of the crowning achievements of my career have been the films that I have made with a client, Travis Rice. He's a snowboarder. We made a film, The Art of Flight, which is probably like the best-selling action sports film of all time. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a really fun ride. And that, working on that project, and then just seeing all the results, it was like a multi-year project. It was just a lot of really hard work, and to be able to participate in helping Travis realize his potential in that realm was really, really great and fun. And then I represent Zoe Sadowski-Sinot. She won gold and slope style in Beijing, and then she won silver in big air. She's only 21, as is Jagger Eaton. So I have my eldest daughter's 21 too. I keep saying I have a ton of 21-year-olds in my life right now. But she has just been like breaking history, making history like on a weekly basis. She is like doing more rotations than any woman in the space. And she, like, in terms of her overall stylistic snowboarding, is like just incredible. I'm just so honored to be in this young woman's service who is, what I like to say, smashing ceilings on a regular basis. So I have a laundry list of highlights of my career, but I would say really as it relates specifically to the things that I've done in the service of these individuals, those are the kind of peak moments where I really feel like, oh, wow, I got to help. I participated in this and played a meaningful role in them realizing their potential and achieving their dreams.
So it's like helping them grow up, because like you said, one of your clients was 8 and now he's 21, 22. So it's just like watching them grow, helping them believe in themselves, like when they feel like giving up. So like just
a lot of it is like, the role that I have as a talent, agent is really it's like, it's beyond just business, right? Like, I'm invested in these humans. I care deeply about them. They feel like family, and oftentimes really become family because I am so invested in their lives and their worlds. And, everything from like relationship advisor, to to friend, to parental like support. Like, I really take a very familiar approach to the clients that I work with, and I don't work with anyone I don't like. There's a handful of clients whose names I will not mention, but where, whether it's like a weird dynamic with the family, or I felt like that the parental influence was unhealthy, or that they weren't really doing what they love, it was more someone else's dream. Those relationships tend to fall off, or I terminate them, because it really has to be about the individual, and that's the only way that you can be set up for success. You have to have that, self-motivation, that deep inner passion to realize your potential in any sport. It can't be someone else's dream. It has to be your own.
Mhm. Thank you. And one of the last questions is, what advice would you give to a college student or recent graduate in pursuing their career in sports?
I mean,
Skill
I would say,
or career like exploitation.
I think I would do a lot of homework in identifying like where you would really love to intern and what kind of work ultimately calls you. I think you should always have a pragmatic understanding that whatever lane it is that you choose, even if you're passionate about it, it's going to be hard. Life is just hard. Work is hard. It's never easy. And it's like the hardships are what either make or break you. And so I would be really clear on what aspects of sports you're really passionate about. And as you enter that space, whether it's through an internship or a recommendation or, even just, shadowing someone or interviewing someone like myself, is like really being kind of clear about what aspect of it that you love, and understanding that even if you love it, and you understand that it's not always going to be easy, and that you got to want it enough, because it really requires all of us in our respective worlds to dig deep to be good at anything. You know that you're a student athlete, so how you have to dig deep, and it never gets any easier. So you have to know that it's the journey as much as the destination, and just be really clear about what it is that that you want to do. And then I would say pursue that with reckless abandon, like go for it and know that this is what you really want to do, and continue with it even when it gets hard, because if you put in your 10,000 hours, you can do anything. I really believe that.
Well, that's all for my questions.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yes.